topic. The topic is called verbs with two objects. Yeah. So an object is usually a noun, something that is capitalized. It can also be a pronoun. Yeah. So S and im are so-called pronouns. Or actually, let's do it more consistently. Pronoun means nothing else or nothing other than instead of a noun. So the word ihm is replacing meinem Bruder. So instead of Bruder, I use ihm. That's the meaning of pronoun. Now, there's a couple of verbs like geben that allow you to add several objects, two objects. Not every verb can do this, but they are often similar in nature from English ones. One is, for example, geben, could also be kochen or kaufen. You can buy yourself something. So, yeah, for example, ich kaufe mir eine Kette. Why not? I buy myself a necklace. Yeah. So mir is an object, eine Kette is an object. If you want to express this, yeah. But you can also say I buy a necklace. So you don't have to use two objects. Now, when you use two objects, indeed you have the problem of what order do I use? And the order in German is a beautiful one in general. The order is generally very Dada. Yeah? Look up what Dada is if you've never heard it. It's a very interesting art form. And Dada is just a mnemonic for you to remember. First the dative, then the accusative. I just doubled it to make it easier to remember. So the main order is Dada, dative, accusative, in this situation with two objects, not in general. Now, the first one is right? So first you have the dative, meinem Bruder, und das Buch is Akkusativ. May I ask how I know which is accusative and which is dative? How do you know?
Mm.
It's okay if you're wrong.
Yeah, I struggle sometimes to choose dative, accusative. So ich gebe who. One is to answer a question is who, and for who I think, and the other is what. I don't know.
Okay, in this very context, this is correct. So again, the context is very important. You cannot transfer this to anything else. In this case, you see there is a recipient.
Recipient.
Someone who receives something, and that's your brother, obviously. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is, let's call it the gift, the thing you gift or the thing the recipient receives, and that is the accusative. In this context, that is indeed correct. Now, much simpler when you have it in front of you. Meinem Bruder, the em ending is clearly dative. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that's how you can see it if it's in front of you. But of course, if you don't see it and have to make it up, this is what you go for. Yeah. Good. Now your question. So dative before accusative. The only and there is four possibilities. The first one is this one. Yeah. You have two full objects with nouns, and then you can have only one of them. Why doesn't it do this? No, maybe. Perfekt. Ich gebe es. Ich gebe es ihm. Ich gebe ihm es. Ich gebe es ihm. Let me quickly think, because it's a bit. There's four possibilities. Ich gebe meinem Bruder das Buch. Ich gebe es meinem Bruder. Ich gebe das meinem Bruder. I have to think. Ich gebe es ihm. What am I missing? I have three possibilities. Ich gebe meinem Bruder das Buch. Ich gebe es ihm. That is already there.
Maybe ich gebe das Buch meinem Bruder.
Dankeschön. But we already have that. Okay, so there is only For now, it's only 3. Maybe I'm misremembering because I just did this this whole week, but I have so many things in my mind. So let's.
No, I'm
Mhm.
thinking that it's possible to say like ich gebe das Buch meinem Bruder, or no?
Ich gebe das Buch meinem Bruder. No. So what you have to look at is you have two nouns. What I'm trying to do here, nouns. Yeah, 2 nouns, and here you have one pronoun and one noun. Can you follow? Can you see this?
Yes.
Yeah, and here we have 2 pronouns. Is there anything I missed? Possibly. We will see. So the order generally, I said, is dada. Yeah, dative before accusative. Now, the only exception from that rule is if there is an accusative pronoun first, or if there is a single accusative pronoun. So accusative pronoun always comes first. And that is the one exception. I'm missing one example, I'm sorry. It will come later when we talk about other things. So in general, the order is clear. First the dative, then the accusative. You can't hear me, but Emilia can hear me. So Ronnie, can you check your Zoom settings and their microphone, audio, and then microphone? And then check whether the right, not microphone, actually speaker, and see what speaker is chosen. I hope that I was audible on YouTube as well. So
Yes, I can hear.
yeah.
Maybe you need to click OK to agree that it's live stream or something.
Yeah, I actually now have ich gebe ihm das Buch. My apologies. Now, see, if you don't think about things, it comes. So you have one pronoun and one noun, but the noun is accusative. And here you have one pronoun, but the noun is dative. Yeah. So that was my thinking. So when you see that, well, you know, the rule is possibly redundant, but you see that in 1 and 2, the order is dada, dative before accusative. In 3 and 4, you have the accusative pronoun. That means it comes first. Keine Ahnung, Sly. You tell me. Huh? You had to sign up for this. I didn't force you here. Okay. By the way, those that came late, you can ask questions in the chat or you can raise your hand. I will then pick you up. Yeah. It's not that Amelia has booked the session, but I hope it's still useful. So whether this rule is worth learning or not, as long as you understand, the order is dative accusative unless there is an accusative pronoun. That always comes first. So it's 50-50.
50-50.
Clear?
Okay, so
You cannot say, ich gebe das Buch meinem Bruder.
the
Well,
have to be first always, right?
no, I don't think it's that.
Because it's pronouns. Okay, I see.
It's grammar is not really personal. Yeah, grammar is very rational and it's describing standards. Honestly, if someone said, ich gebe das Buch meinem Bruder, sounds as good. Yeah, it's not wrong. Ich gebe das Buch ihm would sound a lot wronger. Yeah, so stick to this rule. It's a rule, and rules are there to be broken, but pay attention to how people actually order this. I would assume this is the standard order you will hear in 98% of all cases. And then there's a few people who break the rule. Ich gebe das Buch meinem Bruder. In general, in German, if you put something further to the front of the sentence, the beginning, you intend to emphasize it. Yeah, so if you really want to emphasize, ich gebe das Buch meinem Bruder, then you put it earlier. But I don't think you need to do this. This rule is good enough. Yeah.
I think I just remember something from somewhere that I think because ich gebe es, we can still, this is kind of, it still sounds like a finished phrase, ich gebe es. So,
No.
no? Okay.
I would never say ich gebe es.
Mhm.
Something would be missing. You can say ich gebe das Buch, but even then I would expect like where, to whom, why.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is sentence ich gebe eine Party. I think you can even say that. I give a party. That's possible. But ich gebe es, ich gebe sie would always sound off. First of all, even if I morgen gibt es eine Party. So even if you have the context, eine Party, the sie is obviously referring to that, but it would sound odd. So with pronouns, you have to be a bit careful. At least the context needs to be clear. Yeah.
I understand.
But this, there is, of course, you can say, ich kaufe ein Auto. Yeah, oder ich kaufe es. That works. So geben seems to be a bit more specific, special. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have to see. So that your problem was mainly geben. Yeah. Again, I want to make clear. This is about verbs with two objects because very often people transfer this rule of the receiver, the recipient, to other verbs. Yeah. For example, yeah, ich helfe dir. Why is it dir here? Why is it the dative here? Any idea?
So we need to know who we help.
Good. So what people often think is, oh, dir is the recipient and therefore it is dative. Completely wrong here. Because if I say ich küsse, I'm kissing, I say, how do I say I kiss my mother?
Meine Mutter?
Yeah. So completely different case. Or let me be a bit, let me stick to the same person, dich. So this is obviously a different case. This is what we call the accusative, right? And the other one is what we call the dative. So this is obviously a different case. And in both cases, the du or the dir, the dich, is the recipient of the action, of the helfen or of the küssen. Yeah. So the idea of recipient really only ever works within the context of the verbs with two objects. That's something I want to stress not only for you, but for everyone else watching this. Yeah. Okay. You had another question. Emilia, or maybe Vin or Sly.
Yes, for example, like there are some phrases when you use weil at the end, like very, very end. But there is a word like deshalb, and the verb goes, I think, on the second. Like.
Okay, so here's a sentence. Let's take this. Or we can do it like this. Both would work. So what is the question?
What's the difference? Why with weil the verb the habe goes at the end, and with the deshalb the habe goes after deshalb. This is not at the end, after Zeit.
The answer is very simple. It's because the grammar book says so.
Okay, so it's just the rule that we need to remember.
There is no why. In general, there is no why in the sense of sense or meaning in grammar. Grammar describes how people use language generally. It's not a law. People mess up language quite a lot. Yeah? Ask young people. And people still understand each other most of the time. So this is really because the grammar says so. And there is a couple of words which are called subjunctions. I call them pushers because they push the verb to the end. And the common pushers from A1 to B1 are often like weil, als, das with double S, ob, wenn. And then there is more complex pushers like der, das, die as relative pronouns, welcher, wo, wie. Question words can be pushers as well in indirect speech.
Mhm. So the ones that you just wrote, the verb goes at the end, right? The while.
Yes,
Yes.
these are all pushers. You will not find pushers on the internet except associated with SmarterGerman. But I prefer pushers over subjunctions. Yeah. Yeah. Sub means they indicate that the following sentence is subordinated or in the hierarchy lower than the main clause before it or following. That's what sub means in a way. And junction is something that connects. So they're connecting sentences. No? But pusher is easier because you remember it pushes the verb to the very end. And deshalb is just a conjunction, I would say. It connects two sentences, but it doesn't necessarily change anything.
Mhm.
Yeah, you could use und oder aber. These also all don't push.
They don't push. Okay.
But actually they take a different position. Side. Yeah. Give me a second.
ADUSO. Richtig.
Say it again.
ADUSO.
Genau, ADUSO.
Und ja.
Yeah. Thank you. Let me do this. Aber, denn, und oder. Do you know the other one? ADUSO. Sondern. Yeah. So ADUSO are these 5 words I explain in a second. Yeah. So these are also conjunctions, but these are special because they take no space, 0 position. Yeah. And if you take the first letter of each of these, you get ADUSO. And that is easy to remember. Do you know ADUSO? Does it ring a bell? Do you know anyone named ADUSO? Ronnie knows the connection. No?
Can I share something?
Sure. On the screen, I don't think so, but
Ja, aber
I disabled screen sharing after last week's hijacking.
this is I wrote this on my desk.
Sly is that? Sorry, Ronnie. I thought you were talking. Show me Minecraft. ADUSO. What is it? ADUSO. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
So ADUSO is the little brother of Caruso. Anyone knows Caruso? Enrique Caruso?
Nah.
No? Oh, you're too young. Look him up. One of the most famous opera singers of all times. Not sure whether he's still alive. Everybody knows him, obviously not, but everybody my age knows him in my culture. Yeah. So his little brother, nobody knows. He's a loser. Loser because 0 position. Loser. And that is the mnemonic to remember ADUSO. Nobody knows ADUSO, but everybody knows Caruso. Yeah?
Yeah.
That's the idea behind it. It's just a mnemonic. No, you don't have to know Enrique Caruso. Possibly not even called Enrique. I haven't heard of him for 40 years. So, yeah. Okay. So so you see there's different verb positions. The pushers push them to the end. The conjunctions or the standard conjunctions just keep the verb in second position here. Yeah, position 2. And the ADUSO also keep the verb in position 2, but there is something in front because ADUSO is position 0. Yeah? Okay. But this is sentence structure as a question. So, Emilia, is the initial question answered?
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, I went a little bit astray, but hope it's still clear.
Yeah.
These are all topics covered in my courses with a lot more time and practice. Yeah, you pick it up. ADUSO usually doesn't cause too much trouble later on. Initially, it's something to get used to, but you'll be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Pleasure. And the ich is often redundant. Yeah, ich lerne Deutsch. Yeah, and the kein is also optional because otherwise deshalb makes no sense. Okay. And words like deshalb are relatively easy to learn or to use because you learn the meaning. That's why. Yeah, there is, unfortunately, if you translate, you often have 2 or 3 possibilities. But in this case, if you translate it like this, I'm learning German. That's why have I no time. Yeah, genau. And yeah, same here. These all have meanings. Then I would almost never use. Yeah. It's just, ADUSO doesn't sound so good. ADUSO sounds better. Okay, sentence structure, this is Satzbau. Anything else? Or anything even more unclear now? Good. If there's no more questions, let me actually see. No, I can change that. Fine. Let me try this. No, I'm in the way, right? Okay. Good. No more questions? If there's no questions, I have nothing to say, because how would I know what you want to hear?
Darf ich?
Sure.
Can you explain, please, a sentence with 3 verbs?
What level are you? You have to earn this.
That's 5.
Okay, you've earned it.
Yeah, thanks.
Sentence with 3 verbs. Possibly there's even sentences with 4 verbs, but it doesn't come from the top of the head because it's so rare. 3 verbs is doable. So 3 verbs usually are sentences in the past tense or the future tense, maybe in the passive. Let's see whether I can come up with something spontaneously. Ich kann singen. Yeah, let's assume. Now you want to put this into the this is the present tense, Präsens in German. Now you want to put this into the perfect. Normally you would translate. You would put this into the Präteritum. I give you the Präteritum. How would you do this? Anyone? Just try.
The same sentence or in
Same sentence. No, same sentence. Yeah.
I don't know about the can.
Try. Don't think.
Guitar, no. Konnte.
Very good. I didn't understand the second letter. Continue.
Ich konnte gut singen.
Almost there. And this is a different topic we might want to look at later. Anyone has a suggestion? How to improve this? The könnte is unfortunately a completely different topic, not Präteritum.
Ja, Konjunktiv 2, richtig?
Correct. I could sing well if I had learned it as a child. So the Präteritum usually doesn't have an umlaut. In irregular forms, never. Yeah?
Okay.
Maybe you find one exception, but so konnte. Ich konnte gut singen. So here are still only 2 verbs, nothing special. Now you want to put this in the perfect. This is fun now. How do you do that? Try. So you have 2 verbs. One of them goes into the perfect form. Which one?
Der konnte.
Good. So how do you do that?
Mit würden gleich.
How do you build the past form? The perfect past. Perfect is always.
Ich habe
Continue.
Yeah. Ich habe gut singen können.
Very good. Not gekonnt? Not gekonnt?
Nein.
Why not?
Ich weiß es nicht.
Because. Yeah, because the grammar says so. So modal verbs in the perfect form as auxiliary verbs. I'm not sure whether I can say that. Modal verbs in the perfect in this form never use gekonnt. You can say ich kann nicht, and you turn that into ich habe nicht gekonnt. You see the difference? What's the difference between these two sentences?
Okay.
Yeah. Or actually, sorry, these two. Let me add numbers to it so we can talk about it. Yeah,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
So, in number 2, you see two verbs. And you put a sentence like this into the perfect. Können takes basically the infinitive form. But here, kann is the sole verb, the main verb. I couldn't. You can shorten it. You don't have to say I couldn't do it. You can just say I couldn't. That's possible in English as well. If it's the sole verb you use, then you use the ge form, the gekonnt. That is and that's true for others as well. For example, ich werde Vater. Werden here is the only one. So ich bin Vater geworden. Yeah, normally in the perfect you say worden. But if werden is the only verb in the sentence, it takes the ge form like all modal verbs. Werden is not a modal verb, but that came to mind spontaneously. So let me kill this. The perfect of modal verbs is a completely different topic, but this is it. So you have 3 verbs here. What is the problem?
I know that there must be some verb in infinitive. Yeah.
There's 2 verbs in the infinitive now even.
Yeah.
If I keep thinking in the back, maybe I find something without a modal verb, but I don't think so. No, because usually if you have 3 verbs, things change a little bit. Yeah, the what you know as rules is a bit variable. You want to bring this to the next level? I keep thinking, don't worry. So how would this sentence work with weil, which we learned is a pusher?
Weil ich gut singen können habe.
This is what you have learned in school very well, right?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, this is not how Germans speak. Because now we have 3 verbs in a row. And the conjugated verb is so far to the back that Germans have forgotten already where to put the E. And that's why you have to put it here. This is the madness. This is the beauty of German grammar if you have more than 2 verbs. Weil ich gut habe singen können. Beautiful. But this is B2. I told you you had to earn this. Yeah. So anyone below B2, don't worry about it. You will get there. Yeah.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah. In general, you have 2 verbs. Let me try to come up with in all forms that can have 2 verbs. So you have ich kann singen. Yeah. So modal verbs. Then you have it with ich habe gesungen. Gesungen is a form of a verb, so yeah, it's a past participle. This is the perfect past. And then we have ich werde singen. This is the future one. And what else do we have? Ich sehe es kommen. You have modal verb like verbs. Like I see it coming. In English, you have the same. You can use see with another verb. Normally, that's not. You cannot say I buy it coming or I walk it coming. So I hear you coming. I see you coming. So these verbs of perception, they operate like modal verb like verbs. Yeah.
What they
So
in German, bitte?
they're called verbs, but they are used in a modal sense. Yeah. So the whole idea of modal is difficult to grasp. You just learn that sehen and hören can be used like modal verbs. They don't have to be used like this, but they can be. No? They can have a second verb. As I say, kaufen, ich kaufe, kommen, that doesn't work. Most verbs cannot use a second verb. So, ich habe gesungen, and of course the same is ich bin gefahren, which is the same, it's the perfect. Yeah, with sein. So no, C and D are the same. Future one, then you have ich werde gefragt. What is that? Anyone?
Partizip 1.
No. Gefragt is still the participle 2, has the GE.
Nein, this ich habe es vergessen.
Translate it and see what it is.
It's
The whole sentence.
Werden mit Würden. Yeah.
Careful, yeah, almost. It's the passive, it's something that happens to you.
Yeah.
If I'm being asked, I'm not doing anything. So I'm passive, literally. I'm not opening my mouth. Someone asks me and I can relax. Yeah. So you have it in passive. So that's where you have two verbs. And then there is variance of all this. Yeah. And then you have situations where you can have three verbs. But these are situations where you can have two verbs. Maybe I forgot one, but I don't think so. Sätze mit zwei Verben. Yeah, or situations in which you have two verbs. Modal verbs. Konjunktiv. Ah ja, Konjunktiv. But this is almost, ich würde gern etwas essen. And that's the Konjunktiv, the politeness form. And we have two Konjunktivs. Ja. Er sagt, er sei. Yeah, that doesn't work. No, that's okay. Only Conjunctive 2 works like this. I was checking whether Conjunctive 1 also works like this. Doesn't. Conjunctive 2 and only the weak form has two verbs. Yeah, weak is schwach in German. Okay. And the fun starts when you put these in the past tense, in the perfect past mostly, because then you add a third verb and then you have a situation like we had up here where you have to put the habe in a place where you didn't expect it. Yeah. This is also the perfect. So B2 is all of this plus the past of all of this. And that's why you start with this. Until B1, you cover basically all of these. And in B2, you enhance the joy of learning German by adding one more verb to everything. That's why it matters so much that you get the basics right, because otherwise you will just stumble and be confused. But it's fun. Once you practice it, it's very logical. Yeah, it's really not, you don't even need to be too intelligent to do this. Yeah. So, and that doesn't mean if you don't get it that you're not intelligent. Be careful. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But if you get it explained properly in all P's and you practice it calmly and thoroughly, this is all just a matter of practice. Yeah. and you will still
Yeah.
mess it up when you speak.
Thank you for it.
Yeah, but is anything your original question clearer? Otherwise, rephrase it. I try to find a different angle.
Ja, it's clear. Ich habe das Problem mit drei Verben, like für immer. Wenn ich,
Schon immer.
yeah, when I watch like podcasts and stuff, I also hear them saying like etwas können, zu können oder sowas.
Zu können is a different
Yeah.
ballpark. And that's I don't think that false. Etwas sagen zu können. Zu können shouldn't be a problem, but we can do a little exercise here, Sly. So, can you just put these in the past?
Okay.
So, haben and the past form. Try.
And the Präteritum oder?
No. The Präteritum doesn't change anything. Präteritum simply replaces the können with konnte or sah. Präteritum is not a challenge and nobody uses it anyhow. So you always put this into the perfect. Because the perfect is twofold. Yeah?
Yeah.
That's why we want this. So, ich
habe singing gekannt.
So remember what we talked about? The kann, the modal verbs in the past form. What form do they take?
Können.
Here we go. So this is the first one. Well done. Next one. How do you put this? And remember, sehen works like können.
Okay. Ich habe es kommen.
Very good.
Sehen oder sehen.
It works like können.
Okay.
So it takes the same form. Yeah? It's a modal verb like verb. It is working like a modal verb in this context.
Okay.
Next one. This is already in the past. Ich habe gesungen. I can't put this in the past. Ich bin gefahren is already in the past. Let's take this one. This is difficult. So future one is actually in the future, but you want to put this into the past in the future. So something that will be done in the future. I will have married. Next year, I will have finished my project. Have finished means it's over, right? So
Yeah.
try to put this in the past tense.
Ich werde.
So far, so good.
Ich werde singen. Ich würde singen. Gekannt oder sowas.
When I say the past in this context, we always talk about the perfect past. And the perfect consists of haben or sein plus a past participle. So where's the haben here and where is the past participle?
Ich würde singen haben.
Haben, we have already. Very good. Now where's the past participle? In the modal verbs, we didn't use it. We used the infinitive because they are special. But normal verbs get the past form of singen. What is the perfect of singen?
Gesungen.
Very good. And here you have the perfect futur two. Ich werde gesungen haben. I will have sung. Beautiful.
Yeah.
We do not use this for the future. Yeah?
Yeah.
We use this mostly with the word wohl. I will very likely have sung the anthem flawlessly on the next Super Bowl. Yeah? Wherever people sing this stuff. So we often use this for assumptions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or where, I don't know. where does this glass of water come from? I don't know. I didn't see anyone. So I make an assumption. Oh, my wife will have brought this here, very likely. So meine Frau wird das wohl gebracht haben. I make the assumption that this has happened. And this has nothing to do with the future, ironically, but it's called the Futur tu. Yeah. So usually we use it with wohl. But without wohl, it is something that is already finished, even though it is still to happen in the future. So let's put this in the past. The passive has a very nice past. What do you put in the past? We already have gefragt, so we cannot put that in the past.
Ich habe. Nein,
I give you the bin, yeah.
ich würde. Ich bin gefragt worden.
Almost there. So recommendation for you is to look deeper into the passive before you move on with any other thing. Because I'll show you later, maybe we talk about it, but it's already 6:45. Wow. Today I have to finish early. So worden is the perfect form of the passive. Again, these are all B2 level stuff, but I hope you can follow at least logically. You don't have to be able to use this. Yeah, it's beautiful. And worden is one of the few verbs that take sein in the perfect. Yeah, like kommen, ich bin gekommen, like sein, ich bin gewesen, ich bin geblieben. So there is a 50 verbs whatever that use bin in the perfect past. And werden is one of them, and it doesn't take the GE because we already have the GE here. So we don't say gefragt geworden. You never have gege. Yeah, so that's why it's worden. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is something to look deeper into, Sly, the passive, not the passive perfect necessarily, but it's not that difficult once it clicks. But if you try to handle all of these at once, now it's just an overview, right? Of course you get confused. But three verbs is in general not much of a problem. Also, understanding them, of these four words here, or of these three verbs, which one do you need to understand?
The worden.
So if I say blah, 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 worden, what did I say?
I don't know.
You know something happened to me because you identify worden as passive. But if I say blah, 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 gefragt, blah, 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 what happened?
You've been gefragt.
Someone asked a question, very likely someone asked a question or I asked someone a question. Much more context, much more information. So you can sleep most of the conversation as long as you get the gefragt. The worden, many things could have happened to you. It's not really helping. The bin doesn't help you at all. The ich, everything is ich. Anyhow, everybody talks about themselves. So the gefragt is the one word you need to understand. Because that is the main verb. That has the main information. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of topics I want to encourage you to slowly review and master and not to rush, because they're not complex. But of course, if you handle them too quickly or too many things at once, they will confuse you, especially because you, for example, with the worden, you confuse it with the würden. Yeah. And werden, put that on top of it, because werden is würden is worden. It's all werden. All different jobs werden takes, depending on the context. Yeah. Können and konnten, of course, konnte and könnte are two jobs that können can take on. You just need to know when these verbs take which job. Yeah, it's like in a company. Who does which job? You need to know. Sometimes people have two jobs. So these verbs have 2 to 3 jobs. And you need to learn to distinguish them properly. Otherwise, you give the Hausmeister a task that was for the CFO. and that you might not want to do. So in my course, you will find this neatly explained in a short session, better than what I did now, because I had to figure out what it is you actually struggled with. But while we looked at this, these two topics were revealed by accident. Yeah, you didn't plan on revealing this, but I can see that these topics need your work, your attention. And if you do not tackle them, if you do not understand them fully, you will always feel confused, and the confusion will spread into several other topics. And therefore, I can only recommend, take your time. And if you get frustrated, take a break. Try again. Ask yourself what is not clear. To me, I see three completely different jobs here. Wurden, würden, worden. No confusion at all. And you can say, sure, he's 54 years old and has been exposed to German all his life. That doesn't mean I understand it. I understand it because I took my time, sat down, and understood the differences. Yeah, I invested very many hours of consciously thinking about German grammar. And it's crystal clear to me in 99% of all cases. Yeah, and there's still a surprise here and there, but usually it's not urgent. So I can live with this. So, and for B1, you will come across wurden near the end of B1. Same with worden. Würden possibly already starts in A1, A2. Ich würde gern einen Kaffee bestellen. I would like to order a coffee. And in this context, it's not that difficult. Würde, would. No thinking required. Worden is when you talk about the past. Ich bin überfallen worden. I've been mugged. Yeah. In English, the translation doesn't help. So worden cannot be translated. It has no equivalent, like no one-on-one translation. Wurde neither. Ich wurde gefragt. I have been asked. Wurde doesn't mean or shouldn't translate literally to have been, because it's not what it means. Yeah, so würden is the only one you can actually translate as would, and then it is relatively easy, so you can do this in A1, A2. Worden comes end of B1, if not beginning of B2, not that important. Wurden is the same topic as worden. It's just a different tense. No? Konnte, könnte is the same game. Könnte ich eine Cola haben, bitte? Could I have a Coke? So these are the things you use to order stuff, which is why everyone learns them early on.
I have a question. I think there is no difference between ich wurde gefragt, ich bin gefragt worden. Yeah?
Very good. Very good. Ich bin gefragt worden. In meaning, zero difference. No matter how deep you dig, and I dig deep, no difference. The meaning is identical. In English, I was asked or was being asked and I have been asked, there is a slight difference, which I can't even make out much. Usually present perfect means something like it's somehow in the past, but the effects are still going on or something like that. I might mix it with French. So in German, there is zero difference in meaning between Präteritum, which is the first sentence you said, and the perfect. No matter what you think, no difference. I cannot stress this enough because people usually come up with some theories. But in usage, how we use them, there is a huge difference. So when do I use the Präteritum? When do I use the perfect? Anyone? Last one for today, unfortunately.
Formell or informell?
No, I can be formal in perfect and Präteritum and informal in either.
Keine Ahnung.
See, and this is is one of the first things you should learn until B1, but it's falling under the table, we say in German, because people don't think it's important. When do you use Präteritum? Anyone A2 is able to know that at least.
With modal verb.
Okay, you go to the exceptions, not completely wrong.
with haben.
So I say how we use it. So you're going into grammar again. The formal informal was already the right track, but it wasn't precise enough. So Präteritum, you will find, you can do Craig, go for it.
Yeah, I was going to say Präteritum is perhaps more on the written side, whereas the spoken, like every day, is more of the perfect.
Yeah. So the Präteritum is what we say when we speak. So in everyday life, most of the verbs in the past use the Präteritum, the perfect. The modal verbs can be used in Präteritum even when we speak. Yeah, that's why you were not off. That is what you remembered from your classes. There's a couple of verbs like haben and sein. Ich war im Urlaub, ich hatte keine Zeit. These are fine. But 99% of verbs in the past are used with the perfect. Only when you want to write a novel, you use the Präteritum. That's why in novels, books bigger or less big, you find the Präteritum. I would never say, ich sagte, ich habe keine Zeit. I would say, ich habe gesagt, ich habe keine Zeit. Even though it's longer and less efficient. So, with a handful or two handful of exceptions, all verbs, or you, always use the perfect past tense. And speaking includes WhatsApp, or anything where you type, or comments on YouTube. That is speaking, because you write as you speak. You're not writing a novel or a scientific report. No, I don't remember my university times whether I was supposed to use the Präteritum or not. I can't say, but likely yes, because it's a very formal way of writing. Yeah. So formal wasn't completely off, but whether I say ich habe sie gefragt, or the sie doesn't change anything. I use the habe gefragt. I would not say ich fragte sie. That would sound really odd. So the formality has no influence over this rule. It's not a rule, it's how people speak and use the language. You can speak in Präteritum, but you then have to pay attention to the reaction of people. They might think you're a bit weird. Yeah? So until B1 for sure, you never use the Präteritum except for the modal verbs and haben and sein and maybe werden. So that's 8 to 9 verbs, doable. Clear?
Yeah.
And even in B2, you would really never use it in speaking. And you will pick up a few words that people might use in the Präteritum even when they speak, but I don't think you will exceed 10. Let's be gracious, 15 verbs in total out of 400 plus proper verbs. There's more than 400 verbs, but the 400 core verbs cover most of your needs for now. Yeah. So you learn the Präteritum aside because it comes in texts and it's good to recognize, but you never need to produce it.
So that means I cannot use ich bin gefragt worden when I speak.
Careful. Worden is not Präteritum.
Okay.
Worden is basically short for geworden, and that gives away this is the perfect. You can, and again, the werden, ich wurde gefragt, is something you can use because werden is one of the few. Sein, haben, werden, modal verbs.
Okay.
These are the ones that you can use in Präteritum when you speak. So, yeah, sure. You can say, ich wurde gefragt, ich bin gefragt worden. No difference in meaning. Now, depends on where you live in Germany, the north or the south, you will hear the one more than the other. So, I honestly rarely pay attention to how I say things. I nowadays would use both, depending on how I feel. But in certain dialects, you would use ich bin gefragt worden. In other dialects, you would rather say ich wurde gefragt. So you see, these are rules that are bent and shifted all the time by people and dialects. Yeah, where do you live, if I may ask?
I'm originally from Sudan, but I live in Cairo.
Yeah, the Sudan dialect very often uses the perfect German.
Thank you.
Yeah, so if you're in Bavaria, it's a bit different, yeah, than it is in Hamburg. So this is something to keep in mind when you ever move to these countries, cities. Okay, gentlemen and ladies, I have to go because the sun is saying goodbye today, and I want to see the eclipse in a nice place, and I have to go there. It takes me 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't look into the sun. Yeah, straight. Let the president do this.
I was.
People, well, I'm not sure whether it's visible in the US.
Yeah, no.
You know, it's mostly Europe. My last eclipse is 10 years ago and was quite nice, short but nice. So I will see how this one goes. Thank you very much for the nice questions. It was a bit high level today, but hope you got a little bit out of it. Next week, new topic. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you
And
very much.
my pleasure. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Great.
For you too.
Ciao.
Bye.